Entitled mother thinks her gay son can do whatever he wants. So here is a fun story. My husband and I are pretty private and rarely use social media. He doesn't have Instagram, and I have a private account with only a few close friends and family, and usually post pictures of food or nature and that sort of thing. I never post pictures of my kids. I will sometimes post a story with them, but I control who gets to see them and the context of said story. On the other hand, my brother-in-law considers himself somewhat of an influencer, has a few thousand followers, and posts several times a day. He also happens to be gay. Recently, we had my daughter's birthday party in our house. Brother-in-law was invited and was staying over. Husband reminded him that we like our privacy and not to post pictures of our kids, or where you could identify our house and neighborhood. The next day, I get a message from a friend telling me to check brother-in-law's Instagram. Sure enough, there were at least 10 pictures/videos of my kids, clearly identifying them, hanging out with their favorite uncle. A picture of him in our pool with the caption, lounging at H&OP's house, and a video of him running with the caption, early morning run through the neighborhood, and a pic where you can see our cars and license plates clearly visible in the background. I was furious and sent brother-in-law a message. Hey, we told you not to post pictures of our kids' house and neighborhood. We're not comfortable with this. Please delete them. He left me on scene, but did not reply. 5 minutes later, we get a phone call from mother-in-law. Now keep in mind that brother-in-law is 26, so that means that a grown-ass man went crying to his mummy. The conversation went something like this. I tried my best to recreate it. Mother-in-law: why are you trying to control what brother-in-law posts on his Instagram? Me: I just asked him to delete the pictures with our kids. Why? Are you ashamed of him? Of course not. But both of you know that we don't like having pictures of our kids online. Don't you see that he has suffered enough? He needs to know that his family loves and supports him. His followers need to know too. Brother-in-law knows we love and support him. This has nothing to do with it. This is important for him. I get really frustrated and I say, I know, but our privacy is important to us. If brother-in-law can't respect that, then he will no longer be invited to our home or permitted to be around the kids. Mother-in-law screams, You have ruined my family. I hope you're proud of yourself. She hangs up and proceeds to call my husband to scream some more. He, of course, tells her exactly the same thing that I did. Here is the messy, complicated history. Brother-in-law is not easily identifiable as gay at first glance. In high school, he was a popular athlete who got good grades, had plenty of friends, and spent all of his time partying. When he came out at the beginning of college, he was quickly embraced by both his friends and the LGBTQ community. As far as we know, he never got bullied for it. So here is what mother-in-law is talking about. My parents-in-law are deeply religious, and they are definitely not okay with brother-in-law being gay. They go to mass every day and pray for his conversion. A priest advised them to keep brother-in-law close and shower him with love. And they interpreted this as spoiling him even further, never going against him in any way. Brother-in-law is fully aware of this, strings them along, telling them that he is confused and takes advantage of the situation. He once got them to go to an expensive European vacation because he needed to reconnect with his parents. I know that it must suck for brother-in-law that his parents don't accept him for who he is, and I also know that people in the LGBTQ community have it way harder than the rest of us. However, none of this justifies their crappy behavior and their complete lack of respect for husband and myself and our privacy concerns. Extra note: the stories are gone now, but the posts are still up. What do you guys recommend I do? Update: thank you so much everybody for your kind words and support. Busy morning, so I will try to respond to your comments later. I hadn't wanted to report it naively, hoping he would delete that himself. I have a few ideas of what I'm going to do now. We'll update later. And our next story was posted by user HornyBarista10, titled, My stepfather stole my grandmother's pain medication. My grandmother has diabetes and peripheral neuropathy. The nerve endings in the hands and feet of the sufferers die, and most patients are stuck with chronic pain from the dead nerves. My grandmother takes a small dose of methadone to help with the pain. The medication is a controlled substance, and it is one of the medications that is sought after by opiate addicts. My nana also takes a safe dose and has to go to a special clinic to get the medication refilled. You can't get more refills outside of your prescription. This is important. When my mother and stepfather met, he recently got out of jail for theft and armed robbery. He robbed pharmacies for pain medications. He is an opioid addict. He served some years in jail, and soon after their relationship started, he moved into my grandmother's house with my siblings and I. My stepfather would steal the whole prescription on multiple occasions, leaving my grandmother in severe pain for weeks so that he can get his drug fix. My mother watched this happen and did not do anything about it. She knew the pain that it caused my grandmother, but she didn't care. My grandmother bought a safe to keep her medicine in, but my stepfather figured out how to pick the lock. Any hiding places she came up with was eventually discovered and raided. The medication was not the kind that can be refilled easily, so she had to wait until the next refill to be able to treat the pain from her condition. My parents have also taken it upon themselves to steal my grandmother's money in recent times. It helps me a lot to get this stuff off my chest. Thanks for listening, reader. And our next story was posted by user Galaxy Littles, titled Entitled Parent at a FurCon. Okay, so I was with my dad at MFF this weekend. I was walking back to the car to go home wearing my raptor mask Stella, as well as paws and a tail and a bandana that is Olaf from Frozen. A little backstory. My paws and tail squeak and my mask makes noises. I also have this plush Mountain Dew can that I carry with me. All this is important for the story. Our cast star, entitled Penguin, Young Fur Dad, me, my dad, entitled Son, and Worker. So I see YF and YFD. I squeak my paws and wave and do a little dance as I usually do when I meet a kid and give a high five and take a picture. I then show Young Fur how Stella makes noises and how her eyes move. Young Fur Dad thanks me and they move on. I walk away to another table and am then approached with a woman with maybe 10-year-old child. Entitled Parent says, "Hello?" I squeak and jump up and down as I don't talk much in Stella. "Can we see your mask?" I make confused gestures as if I don't know it's a mask. Entitled Parent then tries to grab the mask off my face, while Entitled Son pulls on my tail and paws. Dad says, "Please leave my daughter alone." Entitled Son, "I want to be a dinosaur." Entitled Son is by this point pulling on my bandana, choking me. Entitled Parent, "Give my angel your costume, you're too old." I take the mask off looking very ticked. "You cannot have my tails, paws, or mask." "But you took it off, you're not using it." "I didn't want to take it off, you entitled bitch. Now take your hellspawn and get out of here." "Don't talk to my mum that way. You're a furry, F word." Whatever. "Rape! This fur is raping me. That bitch stole my son's items." Entitled Son is now pulling on my plush soda can. W says, "Can you prove it's yours?" "No, we just got it." "I can." I show several pictures of when I got my paws and tail, and the painting process of my mask. Entitled Parent and Entitled Son are kicked out. That story went quick. Our next story was posted by user Classy Corpse, titled Birthdays. We used to have special promos for kids at work when it was their birthday. Now we only have things for reservations and the like. So we often get people demanding to see the manager because of this. I've had so many people come in with their kid all dolled up and they loudly proclaim, "It's their birthday, isn't that great?" If I'm the one at the counter or greeting people, I will smile politely and ask how old they are and soon deal with the parents, whom immediately ask what I can do for them. To make their kid extra special, that kind of stuff. Asking for coupons or tickets or goodies. And I have to stand there and go, Unfortunately, we only have special offers for our birthday stars, to which multiple things can happen. They smile and understand. They appear frustrated, but they accept it. Or the worst and most chosen response, "Excuse me, it's my child's birthday. You're supposed to make them feel special. Isn't that your job?" I mean, this is Chuck E. Cheese, isn't it? The most magical place on earth. You wouldn't disappoint them, would you? They continue to belittle and complain, demanding I get a manager who will say the same. And if I'm on the floor doing work, I often get harassed by parents for tickets because it's their little one's special day. Do you want to know what parents and kids do get rewards? The ones who don't flaunt or throw it in my face demanding stuff. On occasion, I'll have a kid wander over to watch me fill tickets, and they chat about how they're excited to be a big kid, and I'll hand them a small stack of tickets. I have an adult I'm helping with, and they'll thank me for helping them because they don't want to let their kid down on their birthday. I'll give them more tickets. If you stab me in the face with it, I'll go out of my way to ignore you, and which in most cases, I'm allowed to. If any CEC employee is harassed or treated like crap, be glad we ignored you or you were rude. We can just as easy throw you out, call the police on you, or have you banned. And our next story was posted by user IamRedW, titled, "EN can endanger kids' lives because it's convenient. Obligatory on mobile, yada yada yada." Our cast are entitled neighbor / cat lady, my mum, and me. You get 5 guesses for this one. So, this story takes place across several years, beginning with me as a wee lad, and ending with me as a teenager with the brain capacity to acknowledge that entitled neighbor is entitled as all get out. Okay, when I was young, 4 or 5 years old, entitled neighbor lived about 3 houses down across the street. I loved football, the type that doesn't involve your actual feet, and played in our front yard all the time by throwing it to myself. Entitled neighbor very much enjoyed turning around in our driveway, despite a cul-de-sac being just a couple 100 yards away, and entitled neighbor having her own driveway anyways. This doesn't seem like much of a problem, but I played football in the yard, by myself, a lot. The fact that she turned in our driveway nearly every time she left her house is a definite danger to yours truly. Over about 2 or 3 years, there were a lot of instances of my parents and entitled neighbor getting into arguments over this. An example I remember quite clearly is my mum. Excuse me, entitled neighbor." "Yes? Please be quick, I have somewhere to go." "Well, I'd appreciate it if you didn't turn in our driveway all the time. My son plays out here a lot, and I'd sleep a lot easier with our cars moving up and down the driveway that often." "So what? The driveway is public property. I can drive on it if I need to." She then demonstrated this by driving off. A few months later, I was playing football once again, and she pulled in while I was standing in the driveway. I had the sense to get out of the way, but entitled neighbor got out of her car, and as I ran inside, followed me to our front door. Come outside." "Oh, what is it?" I'm clearly panicked. She hadn't seen me yet. "You need to teach your son some basic safety. He ran in front of my car while I was turning around." "Oh, I highly doubt that he would do that. You should know when he's playing, he tends to go in the driveway. This is the reason we don't want you to turn around in our driveway." "How dare you try and blame this on me? I am perfectly innocent, and your son is endangering himself because you never taught him the right way to behave. Get off my property before I call my husband." Entitled neighbor then storms off. These types of things continued for some time. Eventually, entitled neighbor got a new car and used this as justification, saying it had automatic braking. Neither side let up, but entitled neighbor no longer pulls into our driveway, mainly because she hardly ever seems to leave her house. Sorry for no big climactic outburst, just a slow burning fire that still sometimes burns. I have a couple other stories about her, and I may share them soon, but for now, thanks for reading and have a great entitlement-free day. Our next story was posted by user BroPearl, titled, EG thinks I belong and respond only to her, and it's ruining my parents' marriage. Disclaimer, English is not my main language, so if you see some misspelling, I apologize. Also, this story is about 9 years ago, and because of today's events, I finally took the initiative to write this from the beginning. EG, entitled stepgrandma, and SG is stepgrandma. A bit of backstory. My mum had a pretty rough life when it comes to relationships. Very relatable. But she ended up dating a guy for over 5 years and decided that he was the one. I was genuinely happy for her, and at the time, I was the typical only son of a single mother. When my brother was born, they hid him from my stepdad's parents for over a year, because he was afraid of what they would think about him. He was also living in their house as well. When the time came, they visited their house and they tell her that they were now grandparents of a 1-year-old baby and an 11-year-old kid, which was me. My mom doesn't remember exactly what happened, but she told them that they were pretty happy about their new grandsons, and my mum felt pretty relieved at that point. Enough of the backstory. A few weeks passed and we started going to their house every Saturday, but my first visit there went chaotic pretty quickly. At the time, I was kind of picky about other people's food, and that was a no-no for her. So she made me eat the food without any complaints. 3 bites into the plate, I felt something was stuck in my throat. Literally, I thought it was a nail, because it started to hurt like hell and I could barely speak. Entitled grandmother thought I was faking it, and she told me that it was enough drama, and that I shouldn't cry about it. I had 30 long minutes of intense pain in my throat, and I couldn't stop coughing. 40 minutes in, and I just passed out. When I woke up again, I felt the pain again, and started coughing and trying to talk to my mum so she could take me to the doctor. Fast forward to 6 years of me coughing like a goose, and having internal scars in my throat because of it. If I was alone without my mum's supervision, she would make passive-aggressive comments about my mum or her family and make fun of my clothes. If I wanted to do something, she strictly told me that it's her house, so she is the one in charge, and if you brats want to do anything about it, you'll need to ask me first and respond only to my orders. I avoided all costs to be alone in a room with her. When I told my mum about it, she just didn't believe me. I just hated to be in that house. Fast forward 1 year, step-grandma won the lottery, and he spent it all on making a house next to theirs for my mum, brother, and me to move in. All I thought was, great, now I definitely won't be able to escape that tramp's control. But looking back to it, I'm super grateful for my grandpa to spend all that money on our house. When the house was done, and I was transferred to another school, both of my parents were out working for most of the day. That leaves plenty of hours for entitled grandmother to mess with me and just take out her anger on me. The upside was that my mum got a call from me crying about how rude she was towards me. My mum then found out that she was trash-talking her with my step-aunt's fiancé, and she got more cautious when she was talking to entitled grandmother. From then on, my mum believed everything I told her, but we couldn't do pretty much anything because the house we were lived in was built with step-grandfather's money, and at the time we had nowhere to go. So we had to make a plan on how I would react to her, because yes, I was pretty temperamental at that point after sucking up to her abusive behavior for 2 years. This also affected me on the new school that I was put in. Over the course of 7 years, every time she made up a problem and it involves either me or my brother, my parents will fight in the car on their way home, and my dad would sleep on the couch from 5 days to a week and a half. And this just keeps making our family relations go down the toilet. The worst part? She the next day will act like nothing happened, and she'll act like a saint in front of other people, so nobody knows how terrible of a person she is outside of our house. My mum had a quote in Spanish for this: bright on the sheets and shadow in the house. I know this doesn't make a happy ending, but it's just to make the internet know how terrible she is. I have a lot of stories throughout those 7 years, and some have a well-deserved r/pro revenge, but I'll leave them for another day. But overall, thanks for reading to this post. And our next story was posted by user Radioactive Mold, titled, My Child Made Art. I work in a plaster painting shop. Basically, we sell plaster molded into figures, animals, characters, etc. for kids to paint. I see a lot of crappy parenting, but I've never had more crappy parents than this. This little girl and her mum came in, and the girl picked out a narwhal. Pretty normal, right? They pay, and we were giving out small plasters for free. The store I work in at is new, we had just moved. The kid picks out one of those yellow and white flowers, the kind of swirly ones, which I think is a frangipani. I'm wiping down one of the counters. I look over, and this mother is holding up a Google image result of those flowers and making this 6-year-old paint it perfectly. She did that angry whisper thing so many times. When I saw this, I was a little suspicious, but I ignored it. They brought it up to the counter. We put a glaze and offer shimmers for free. The counter has a glass top because we have decorations underneath too for people to buy it for extra. It's just like top hats, glasses, googly eyes, etc. Cheap stuff, but some kids really love it. I put the glaze on and some shimmer over her 2 plasters. The little girl asks for a felt top hat on her narwhal, so I get it out. I ask for the $2 for the hat, and the conversation goes like this. EM is entitled Mum, IC is Innocent Child, and me is me. I say to them, the top hat costs $2 extra. I won't be paying that. My daughter made art. She should get it for free for being so talented. I'm sorry, ma'am, but that's the price. If you don't want to pay, I could direct you to my manager. Mommy, can we go? It doesn't really matter. Shush. I won't be speaking to a manager. I'm taking my top hat and my daughter and I are leaving. Okay, Boomer. Excuse me, Karen. The manager will assist you now. This woman ended up screaming at my boss, nearly getting kicked out. I chose to show her to my manager because at that point in the day, I'd cleaned up 3 glitter paint spills, had a kid try and paint my face, and get yelled at for being in the bathroom. She paid for the hat in the end. Working for minimum wage, it is a beautiful thing. And our next story was posted by user Classy Corpse, titled Bold-Faced Lies. Alright, so as the tech, I often find a lot of damage caused by my kids or adults, and if they don't lie about it, they usually awkwardly shuffle around it. Some include a parent coming up to me and telling a kid had rolled a ball up the alley roller, and it broke the plexiglass off and she just barely caught it. I get to it, and the plexiglass had slid down the alley and it even snapped the card reader off. Sure, Karen, you totally stopped it. I've had so many people tell me a game didn't give them tickets, and I get to the game and I read the screens and diagnostics, and it's obvious they're lying. So when I refuse to give them tickets, they swear I should keep checking or that I'm lying. I tell them again, if there was an error, I would find it. Hell, once I had a woman argue with me because she didn't get her owed tickets. That the game was broken. So I responded with, no, it's working and there is no ticket error. This went back and forth until she left to complain to management, as they always do. I've had people straight up lie to me that half of the games were not working. And I stand there like, honey, listen, I've been here 9 to 5. These games are all 100% functional. So I know you're just bitching to tramp thinking it'll get you freebies. Girl, that don't work on me. You can try, but you'll fail. I will literally stand with my manager as they back up everything that I say is true. Walk away, girlie. I am the arcane of this arcade. I know all. Today, I had gotten to one of the games while filling tickets with one family in the store, and our water gun game, Ducky Splash, sits next to a game called Sideshow, and it's a small shooting arcade. Sideshow is covered in water, and the father of the kid awkwardly slinks away as I start venting about this crap at my manager. So I have to run to find a rag, because water on cabinets is not good. It's ridiculous. And they're working at Chuck E. Cheese. And our next story was also posted by Classy Corpse, titled Black Friday at Chuck E. Cheese. Was honestly one of the most terrifying 9 to 5 shifts I've had so far. I was bombarded by all kinds of ill-mannered and rude parents and guardians. We were swamped from the moment the doors unlocked, and worst of all, I am written as unavailable on Fridays, but had to pull a 9 to 5 regardless. The first person I dealt with had yelled at me to get up at the counter, demanding that I serve her. When I apologized and said that I was the store's tech, she simply demanded I found someone who would serve her. I was chewed out by another guest that the place was a mess. It was disgusting, and it looked like we didn't care. She demanded to know whose job it was. I apologized and stated that it's a portion of my job when I'm not behind multiple games trying to get them back online. As soon as I say this, she continues griping, saying that I won't do my job right, and that she'd like to speak to the manager about it. The entire day went exactly like that. Not a single good customer, just demand after demand after demand. Our next story was posted by user Ace the Not So Great, titled, "Entitled Mum Scolds an Altar Boy After Telling Her to Be Quiet." Here is some background. My family goes to a traditional Catholic parish that celebrates the traditional Latin Mass. There is a dress code, and there are a couple of rules. No talking, no gum chewing, most comply with the dress code. My brother is an altar boy, and he has a pretty good relationship with the other altar boys. There is one altar boy who is pretty old and would serve occasionally. I'll call him Bob for the sake of this story. Anyways, this woman comes in with 2 kids. She was talking to her child during Mass, which is breaking one of the main rules. I could have scolded her, but I'm not very good at communicating. Near the end of Mass, the priest was saying some prayers, and the woman continues to talk to her children. Bob politely tells the woman to be quiet, and instead of listening to him, she scolds him. I don't know what she said, but something about him not being the priest and not having the authority to tell her what to do, even though he is an experienced altar boy. As the altar boys began to line up, I could tell that he was annoyed by this woman, and I'm pretty sure that the other altar boys were as well. My dad wanted to lecture her, but she left as soon as Mass was over. This happened last week. I would not have posted this if it weren't for what happened today. After Mass, as my dad, mum, and I waited for my little brother to leave the parish office, the woman came into the office. My brother told me that she complained about Bob. I don't know how the priest reacted or what else she said, but my brother told me that she said, "I went to masses all around the world and nobody has ever told us to be quiet." My brother said that him and the younger altar boys laughed from the distance. Knowing the priest, I think he probably scolded her. I am sorry if there's some grammar and spelling mistakes in this post, and sorry if this wasn't as intense like some other stories. Anyways, I hope you all have a nice day. And our last story was posted by user Bumper2004, titled, "Breakfast." To give some context, my grandma runs a community breakfast every Saturday, and many not so well off families come to get some food. I'm 12 at the time and have a couple of friends there. One of my friends is a 9-year-old, kinda skinny girl. There is one entitled boy there, about 11, quite dense and muscular, EC, who would often mess up and bother everyone at the breakfast. This one morning, I noticed he and the girl are playing a bit roughly. This escalated quickly into a fight. As I'm walking over, I see that she's hiding under the pillow of a chair while he's pounding on top of her, seriously hurting her. Me, being quite a bit older, immediately yanks him off her and starts yelling at him, asking what the hell he was doing. Then his mother walks over to us from across the room. EP says, "Stop bullying my son." "What do you mean? The 2 of you are yelling at my son. You're hurting him." "He was beating up my friend." "I'm not an idiot. If I think my son is misbehaving, I will step in. It's not your place to punish my son." I kept reading until some other adults were there to encourage me to stop and lead me away from the situation. Guess what happened? The boy immediately continues to beat her up. After a couple unbearable minutes of watching this happen and nothing being done, I went back to her, despite the others at my table telling me to sit back down. I go up to her and ask if she wants to come to the bathroom. She says yes, and I bring her in there. She tells me that she goes to the school with him and he does this all the time. I was so shocked at this. We stayed in the bathroom until he and his mother left. He was waiting just outside the door the whole time. Edit. To everyone saying I should have told my grandma, she was there. She knows what happened. We aren't banning them because this child needs help. He clearly has autism, but his mother is in denial of it and refuses to get him the help he needs. Him being with people who try to help is the best thing we can do for him. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed this story. I know the one that I posted yesterday wasn't the best received, and I know that there was someone in the comments that was defending me in some of the bad comments that I received there. That was interesting. I know you guys, some of you don't like the accents, and I know a lot of you quieter people do like the accents. I'm just only going to do those kind of episodes when I'm like feeling pumped up to do them, you know? Most of the time it's just going to be chilled episodes. Anyway, tell me what you thought of the episode and the one yesterday. I want to know your thoughts. It was very polarizing, it seems. But everyone liked it. It got heaps of likes, so I guess it's just a vocal minority that didn't like it. Anyway, I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in the next episode, guys. Have a good one. Bye.